General Dynamics Information Technology provides homeland security solutions and support to help keep America safe. Our innovative solutions provide the thought leadership, engineering, and technical excellence needed to address today's most urgent homeland security priorities. For more information, visit gdit.com/homeland.
A couple of things did come out of this so-called fiscal cliff deal. One, the Bush era tax cuts got extended for 98% of Americans, which I think effectively limits our chances of falling back into another recession. But it failed, the fiscal cliff deal failed to really address sequestration in any meaningful manner, other than to delay its implementation from early January until early March. Now what this is doing is effectively adding to the fog and cloud of uncertainty that's sort of surrounding program planners right now. And unfortunately, as we all know, in the government, uncertainty leads to inactivity. So what I think we can definitely expect to see in the coming months is going to be hiring freezes across the government, and contract awards are going to be delayed significantly.
From my perspective, yeah, I mean, IT budgets are relatively flat. I mean, you have to be a little bit creative and innovative with the way that you're approaching DHS decision makers. But with that said, even with a budget that's flat, you're still talking about almost $5.8 billion in IT spend going into FY13. So they're second behind HHS in the civilian side. So that's a ton of money that you're still looking at. So you hear budgets are flat, you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to sell? There is a tons of money here, you know, to be able to sell into. And the other thing that I think is important to mention is even with relatively flat IT budgets, you still have a huge uptick in cyber spending, even with a lot of this deferred cyber legislation. So I think it's something like $183 million just going to launching some of these cyber initiatives and offerings. So there's a lot of opportunities. It's not by any means going to be hopefully too difficult to sell into. There's a lot of money to be spent.
You know, I think unfortunately whenever, again, there's uncertainty and inactivity on the government's from the government side, industry tends to freak out a little bit. They get wary, they get restless, because let's be honest, most of these companies and most of these salespeople are working on 30, 60, and 90-day quotas. Government sales cycles are just unfortunately taking quite a bit longer. I think we saw an uptick in procurement activity, or at least in solicitations being released in the December-January timeframe, because government agencies wanted to try to obligate as much funds as possible so that there would be less available funds for the sequester to actually hit. I think we're going to hit sort of a doldrum time period from now until March. Maybe in March we're going to see another uptick once we get a new budget or another continuing resolution passed. And of course, as those RFPs that were solicited back in December and January, those are going to start to get awarded again in March. I think we're going to see a really long period of no activity between March and maybe July timeframe. Come July, August, September, I think government's going to realize, hey, we've got a lot of money left over, we didn't spend the rest of the year, so they're going to try to burn through that as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, industry is going to be pretty nervous, I think. You have to really assess what your messaging is to your customer. You know, you have to really figure out what is valuable to my customer. And right now, I think the most valued messaging to any government customer is, how am I going to save you money?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the message, they probably aren't really set on talking to you unless you can show them that return on investment over 5 years. So if you have no story along those lines, I mean, it's going to be a hard time to kind of get into the door. They really want to see innovation as well. So anything that can kind of streamline and build efficiency into a lot of these systems is going to be huge. I think, yeah, anything along those lines where they can reallocate personnel to different areas, that's also going to be probably pretty big. But I definitely think the 5-year ROI is still the main message for sure. There is a lot, I mean, within all the components at DHS, which is a great thing. So no matter what your patch is within DHS, I think there's a lot of opportunities. Specifically, you could look at the USCIS transformation program. That probably is one of the biggest heavy hitters going into FY13. That's all around moving from a paper-based filing system to an electronic system. So you're going to have lots of opportunity for data management, storage, BPM, SOA, middleware. You have another program like the National Cybersecurity Protection System and CPS. So that's probably got the most money total, $344 million in FY13 requests, where that's all around intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, again, all of that cyber advanced persistent threat. And that's looking to really protect across the federal government infrastructure. So avoiding all those threats and being able to protect the infrastructure. With that said, there's kind of something new that's been on the scene, and that's the continuous diagnostics and mitigation offering. So that's kind of what immixGroup has really been focusing on as of recently. We've been aligning ourselves with a lot of teaming strategies there. A lot of money to be spent there, and I think you might actually see some of the action in CPS slow because of that. I think they're kind of deciding what each program offering is really going to be focused on. So right now the main focus is CDM. There could be upwards of $6 billion over the next 5 years there. And that again is around IPS, IDS, advanced persistent threat, and that is still focused on protecting the .gov domains. Other areas, I think CBP has a really huge area with the Tactical Modernization, TACCOM program. You have their legacy radio infrastructure really needs to be modernized. So they're looking to move to a 4G network there. So that means video on demand. You have biometrics there, identity screenings, things like that. That's going to be really huge. I mean, even in TSA, you have the TTAC infrastructure modernization program that has, I want to say, $60 million associated with that for FY13, and that's all around analyzing and detecting information for transportation sector workers. So you're looking at SOA, again, CRM, there's a lot of data security. You name it, there's solutions and requirements for pretty much, it runs the IT solutions offering gamut. What I've been hearing so much from DHS at industry engagements is that they really want vendors and industry to understand their requirements and to align what they're doing with those requirements, but be more innovative. Show them how you can do things faster. Show them how it's agile and modular, and making sure that if you're going to fail fast and be able to get back on track and be able to build out those system requirements in a faster pace. They need to be doing things faster, especially as the environment technology is changing so rapidly. There's a major demand for additional technology, like I was saying, in the field, mobile. So they have to kind of get on board and make sure that they're meeting those needs, and I think that's what DHS is going to be most receptive to. They're definitely splitting up a lot of these major contracts, so you're probably going to see less single awards to these large SIs, and you're going to see probably more awards going to small businesses, small business set-asides. Even if it is going large business, you're going to have still that big requirement to utilize small business. That's changing a lot across civilian. That's not just DHS. So yeah, absolutely. Modular, incremental, agile, and small business. That's going to be huge. And utilizing IDIQs and GWACs. So First Source, Eagle, those contract vehicles, the BPAs, that's going to also be pretty important. So not just selling into the government and meeting the requirements that exist right now, but also making sure that you have the right acquisition strategy to be a part of that is going to be important.
I think everyone has to remember the government agencies all have a mission that they have to accomplish. and regardless of what the budget environment is, they're still going to purchase products and services that will help them accomplish those missions. So stay patient, stay tenacious, stay in contact with your customers. Remember to keep your messaging centered around efficiency and saving them money and return on investment.